Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 297. Without any delay, start explanation. Saime Jinkai had resigned himself to be at Tang Wulin's side at all times. Saime Jinkai and Aruhan were both greatly startled upon arriving at the underground world of the Tang sect. The Tang sect owns such a place? It's right under Heaven Do City. The government has no inkling of this at all. It's simply unbelievable. If the Tang sect wishes to destroy a city, I'm afraid it's going to be even easier than destroying Shrek City, right? Aruhan was truly shocked by the underground world of the Tang sect. Tang Wulin spoke in a deep voice, "Senior brother disciple Saime, the underground world of the Tang sect must be kept a secret. You are not to tell even if it's our brothers from the Blood God army. This is the Tang sect's biggest secret. Oh, there's something else I forgot to mention. The Amorous Doluor and Blood One have already handed over the post of Tang sect master to me." Saime Jinkai and Aruhan looked at one another in shock. They were well aware of its significance. They knew Tang sect's status as it is one of the four great pillars of the Blood God army. Compared to the Spirit Pagoda, the Tang sect kept a low profile. For thousands of years, its main business was focused on developing and making soul devices for sustenance. The Tang sect had an even longer history than the Spirit Pagoda. Moreover, the Tang sect had a close relationship with Shrek Academy. However, the low-profile Tang sect remained modest. Thus, no one knew how many inner secrets the Tang sect actually had. When the Tang sect headquarters was bombed, many people thought that the Tang sect was done for. In the aftermath, the Tang sect's businesses shrunk so much so they were no longer conspicuous. Who would have thought that the Tang sect had such an underground world? One should not underestimate the capabilities of these veteran sects. The profundity of its inner secrets was beyond belief. They were all aware of Tang Wulin's purpose in returning to Heaven Do City. It was precisely for the revival of Shrek Academy in the near future. However, they were conscious of the difficulty of reviving Shrek. Nevertheless, after witnessing the Tang sect's inner secrets which were unfathomable and discovering that Tang Wulin was already its sect master, they felt confident enough that it may indeed be possible. Tang Wulin used his soul communicator to inform his comrades to wait for him at the gymnasium. He brought Aruhan and Saime Jinkai straight to the gymnasium. For everyone's safety, he invited the Light Dark Doluor and the Holy Spirit Doluor to be the judges as well as to supervise the competition. After all, it would be difficult for them to control themselves during the competition at their current level. They might accidentally cause harm to others in the midst of the competition. By the time they arrived at the gymnasium, the Holy Spirit Doluor was already sitting on a chair with her eyes closed as if she was meditating. She remained as beautiful as ever, but each time he saw her, Tang Wulin was saddened because he could not sense any vitality from the Holy Spirit Doluor. Her whole person was dull and lifeless. Elder Long was present as well. She was talking with Shulishi. Shulishi's face was beaming till his chubby cheeks were trembling slightly. After the Sea God's Lake Date Festival, Long Yue formally accepted Shulishi as her disciple and guided him in his cultivation. It was not long before the great catastrophe occurred when Shulishi came back from Demon Island. In reality, he had not spent much time learning from Elder Long, so Shulishi was ecstatic upon meeting his teacher. Saime Jinkai had just walked into the competition arena when he suddenly sensed something. He shifted his gaze in another direction. On the other side, a young maiden sat cross-legged. Her eyes were set upon him. Their eyes met one another. Saime Jinchi's spirit sensed a pricking sensation. At the same time, he recognized the maiden. Was that not the troublesome maiden who pointed a sword at him in the Federal Star Do Battle Network Challenge? Was she one of the Shrek 7 monsters too? He was rather relaxed initially, just like Aruhan, but now he was vigilant after seeing Yi Xinglan. Although he was already a title Doluor, they were not allowed to wear battle armors in today's sparring session. On the other hand, the girl had realized the profound meaning of Sword Soul during the battle with him earlier. She would certainly be more powerful by now, having cultivated all this while. It would not be an easy task to deal with her. If the rest of the Shrek 7 monsters were at her level, then today's battle of 3 against 6 would not be won easily. Upon seeing their arrival, Yu Jingyu, Yuan and Yehue, Yi Xinglan, Xu Xiaoyan, and Xie Xie walked over toward them. Xu Lixi joined in after finishing his conversation with Elder Long. Xie Xie came forward first. He could not refrain from speaking upon seeing the tall and burly Ruhan. Strength God, you're truly huge. It feels more stressful to see you in person than in the Star Do Battle Network. Hee hee. Ruhan chuckled while he raised his right arm to show off his bulging muscles. Yi Xinglan's gaze remained on Sima Jinkai. We meet again. Please guide me later. Sima Jinkai spoke, little girl, it seems like your comprehension of Sword Soul is quite impressive. What a waste that the disparity between you and I can't be remedied within a short period. Yi Xinglan did not speak further but closed her eyes. The sharp aura that she was unleashing earlier had vanished at this moment. Sima Jinkai shifted his gaze. That's the hidden sword. How impressive. The little girl is truly extraordinary. Everyone's here, let's begin. Elder Long's voice was heard. At present, Ruhan and Sima Jinkai had just taken notice of her. Their gazes fell upon Elder Long and their bodies shook mildly. Elder Long appeared to be old and shaky, much like any ordinary old woman. She had wrinkled skin and white hair. There was not the slightest hint of a shocking aura emitting from her body. Ruhan and Sima Jinkai were both titled Doluos, the Saber God Doluo Sima Jinkai and the Body Doluo Ruhan. They were both considered among the few people whose standards were beyond their peers. Although they could not see Elder Long's aura with their eyes, there were traits on Elder Long's body which made them feel like they should look up to her even from afar. It was a form of telepathic reaction. They were terrified because Elder Long appeared so ordinary it seemed like she had never existed in the spiritual world. It was evident she gave a feeling far beyond their spiritual rank. They would not be wrong to identify it as the spirit domain's spiritual power. They certainly did not expect such an almighty presence in Shrek Academy nor the Tang sect. There was no need for Tang Wulin to introduce Ruhan and Sima Jinkai, for they had already taken the initiative to bow in salutation toward Elder Long. It's our pleasure to meet our senior. Long Yeyue answered, thank you. We shall talk more after the sparring session. Tang Wulin looked toward the group of people. Everyone on the scene was his good companion. The most important purpose of the sparring session was to familiarize themselves with each other so that they knew the extent of everyone's cultivation base. Actually, Tang Wulin had lost the battle to Yu Jingyu earlier. He underestimated Yu Jingyu's improvement. He did not manage to display his true abilities at once, such that Yu Jingyu capitalized on his holy fusion skill to break Tang Wulin's blood-soul fusion skill. However, Tang Wulin would not make the same mistake twice. Although his expression appeared calm at present, his heart was burning with the desire to fight. He was going to assess the extent of his comrade's growth through this battle. Both sides fell back into the distance with a large gap separating them. The light dark Doluo Long Yeyue took a step forward and was by the side of the Holy Spirit Doluo. She waved her hand once to turn on the protective shield which covered the entire gymnasium. In addition, there was a layer of black and white radiance on the outer layer of the protective shield. It was the Elder Long's light-dark power. Tang Wulin could not help stealing a few glances. He had never truly engaged in a battle with Elder Long's light-dark power. However, he felt stimulated after sensing Elder Long's spiritual domain the other day. In the battle of 3 against 6, Tang Wulin was definitely at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. However, Tang Wulin, Ruhan, and Sima Jinkai were undoubtedly more powerful based on their overall abilities. Being more powerful would not necessarily ensure triumph in a battle. Tang Wulin understood that his comrades' abilities to complement one another through their years of fighting together would be more effective. Both sides stood firmly separated by a distance of 200 meters. They gazed fixedly at one another in the distance. The Shrek 6 monsters' configuration made more sense since they were soul masters of different types. Yu Jingyu, Yuan and Yehue, and Yi Xinglan were assault-type soul masters. On the other hand, Xu Xiaoyan was a control-type soul master while Xie Xie was an agility-type soul master. Last but not least, Xu Lixi was acting as an auxiliary system food-type soul master. Their setup was ideal. Tang Wulin's side comprised of 3 assault-type soul masters. Tang Wulin himself would take on the additional task of a control-type soul master. Begin. Elder Long's announcement was simple and direct. She did not offer any advice apart from announcing the start of the competition. Tang Wulin was the first person to dash out. He used his left foot to stamp against the ground and triggered a heaven-shocking loud crash. His entire person pounced straight toward the Shrek 6 monsters on the opposite side, akin to a flying golden arrow. Aruhang and Sima Jinkai were running simultaneously by his side. All 3 of them unleashed their martial souls as soon as they dashed forward. 7 soul rings arose from Tang Wulin's body. The green gold and 2 orange gold soul rings appeared especially striking and were all the more shocking. Tang Wulin's comrades would have their own orange gold soul rings too. However, they had not fought together in the past year. Tang Wulin's comrades had broken through to 7 ringed cultivation bases in succession, but they had not absorbed the plant-type soul beasts attached to Tang Wulin. Everyone had their reasons. Yu Jingyu's reason being his clan had a crucial demand for his 7th soul ring. With the possibility of acquiring the holy fusion skill, he would need to use his initial angel spirit soul as his 7th soul ring. Yi Xinglan's reason was she was breaking through an important stage of her sword soul. She could not stop halfway to absorb the plant-type beast, so she might as well complete the breakthrough first. Xie Xie's situation was rather similar. He felt the mutation of his martial soul when he achieved rank 70. In order to achieve further success, he completed his breakthrough immediately. Xu Lixi was supposed to wait, but the ability that he was cultivating at the time triggered his initial spirit soul to complete the fusion of his 7th soul ring. Yuan and Yehui had twin martial souls. She had her own ideas as well, so she made the decision to use her 8th soul ring to fuse with the plant-type beast. As a result, Xu Xiaoyan was the only person remaining for the fusion with the plant-type beasts. Everyone else had elevated to 7 rings. When she saw Yu Jingyu engaged in closed-door cultivation to achieve a breakthrough, she was instigated to complete her own breakthrough that she hurriedly went over to the observatory. She thought everyone was planning to fuse with the plant-type beasts when they attained 8-ring cultivation bases. In any case, they may not necessarily be suited to the plant-type beasts for certain, so she might as well go ahead with her breakthrough. As a result, Tang Wulin's 6 great beasts were still by his side and had yet to fuse with his comrades. He was the only person with an orange-gold soul ring at present. Meanwhile, Tang Wulin and his 2 companions formed a triangular battle formation as they charged forward. The Shrek 6 monsters on the other side had already completed their battle formation, having discussed it prior to the competition. Xie Xie took a step toward the side and vanished into the air silently. Yuan and Yehui assumed command in the middle while Yu Jingyu and Yi Xinglan were on each of her sides. Xu Xiaoyan was behind her, leaving Xu Lixi at the rearmost of the formation. At present, 6 pairs of cheeks were contorted as they chewed the buns. Tang Wulin was not sure of the type of buns they were chewing since they were secretive in their movements. Tang Wulin suspected it may be something similar to the bloodthirst bean buns. Other than the missing Xie Xie, the rest of the group did not move despite Tang Wulin charging at them from the front. They held their positions to brace themselves for the opponent's attack. Tang Wulin's speed increased as the pair of golden dragon wings on his back adjusted the direction of his charge. The golden dragon spear was already in his grasp. His ferocious and forceful momentum was about to make the air explode. The distance of 200 meters was covered in just a few seconds with his impressive cultivation base. Aruhang and Sima Jinkai were behind by only a step. Their cultivation bases were even more powerful while their speeds were definitely not slow. Sima Jinkai held the dragon-slaying saber in his hand. The person he was heading toward was Yi Xinglan. As they gazed into the eyes of one another, Sima Jinkai could see the intense desire to fight in the maiden's eyes. He felt as if he was watching himself in the past as he looked at Yi Xinglan. However, Yi Xinglan was not combative like him. In her case, it was the pursuit of perfection in her sword skills. What was the extent of her sword soul now? This battle would not be ending soon, right? Although it was a battle of 3 against 6 in which Tang Wulin's side was outnumbered, Sima Jinkai felt confident of winning this battle. He was familiar with Tang Wuli's ability and knew the extent of his powers. In a one-against-one battle, he would not be Tang Wulin's worthy opponent were he not cladded in his battle armor. He was a 9-ring Soul Master fighting against a 7-ring Soul Master. The effect of the Golden Dragon King's amplification on Tang Wulin was so powerful it was truly astonishing. Aruhang had pretty much the same thought as Sima Jinkai. He did not think that the Shrek 6 monsters could triumph over the 3 of them. Under ordinary circumstances, it should be easy for a title Dolor sparring against 7 Soul Duluos. He would not even be interested to participate in the sparring session today if not for the Shrek 6 monsters. A faint smile emerged on Tang Wulin's face. Perhaps, he was the only person out of the 3 who thought winning today's battle would not be trivial because he knew his comrade's abilities well. The power within every single one of them was developed together as a squad. During the whole year when he was enlisted in the military, he was a person reborn. How could his comrades be any different? There was a reservation to some extent in his headlong charge which appeared as if he was devoting his full force. His gaze was not upon Yuan and Yehue but Xu Xiaoyan who was standing behind Yuan and Yehue. He was certain that she was the only person capable of blocking his full force charge. When Tang Wulin was past 100 meters, he caught a glimpse of the star staff in Xu Xiaoyan's hand shimmer with radiance as if she was about to unleash her soul skill. It was precisely because he was familiar with them that he chose to make a move at this moment. Without any hesitation, 2 streams of purple lightning-like radiance shot out from his eyes. Tang Wulin had yet to cultivate his purple demon eyes to the final part of the expanse level. However, the effect produced at the 3rd level was still exceedingly powerful and terrifying. Had it been an ordinary Soul Sage, he would have blasted the Soul Sage's head in one strike. Tang Wulin understood very well that the most terrifying part about Xu Xiaoyan's star staff was its absolute immobility ability. With this ability, she was capable of becoming one of the Shrek 7 monsters. Hence, he should not allow her to unleash this ability. The only thing he could do now was to disrupt her from launching it. Consequently, Tang Wulin unleashed the purple demon eyes without any hesitation. He relied on his spirit domain's spiritual power to launch a sudden attack. He believed that Xu Xiaoyan would not be able to block it even if she was well prepared. After all, his comrades were unaware that he had already achieved the spirit domain rank. A purple radiance flashed once. Even Sima Jinkai and Aruhang standing by Tang Wulin's sides could see the solid-like purple-gold radiance clearly. Furthermore, they were petrified by it. If such a terrifying spiritual assault was launched on them, they would not be able to withstand it either. They could even feel it from the side, what more for those confronting it from the front. They had suffered once due to the purple demon eyes when they sparred with Tang Wulin in the past. Tang Wulin had cultivated his spiritual power painstakingly in recent days. His purpose was to cultivate his purple demon eyes to the highest level as soon as possible and achieved a breakthrough to the expanse realm. By then, he believed he could acquire a spiritual domain belonging to him easily. However, a situation that surprised all 3 of them occurred. When Tang Wulin's eyes were shimmering with purple radiance and his purple demon eyes were unleashed, he watched in astonishment as Xu Xiaoyan who was on the opposite side raised her head to reveal a ghastly smile. Tang Wulin felt his chest tighten as he saw the smile on Xu Xiaoyan's face. Back in the beginning when Tang Wulin first arrived at Shrek Academy, Xu Xiaoyan had a firm hold on the class with her authoritarian demeanor. At present, her smile seemed intentional. A misty golden light screen appeared before the Shrek 6 monsters silently at the moment. Tang Wulin's purple demon eyes assault missed by a mile as it crossed the screen and blasted the light shield directly. By right, a defense formed from energy could not possibly block a spiritual assault, but Xu Xiaoyan had just managed to do so. A ring of purple radiance spread out on the outside of the screen leaving Xu Xiaoyan completely unaffected by Tang Wulin's attack. On the other hand, Tang Wulin had already charged forward and arrived before them. Golden Dragon Spear pierced into the light screen along the flashes of his figure. However, Tang Wulin suddenly felt as if he had not pierced into a screen but into the void. He felt as if the Golden Dragon Spear, which was an incomparably sharp divine weapon, had pierced into an empty space in front of him. It felt like everything had already vanished during that one moment. It felt as if the opponents had suddenly vanished from his vision. Within the vision of everyone else, Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear vanished without a trace as soon as it penetrated the light shield. His body that was charging at full speed had also turned blurry when he barged into the light screen. It felt as if he had already disappeared at that moment. What was happening there? Meanwhile, Yuan and Yehui, Yu Jingyu and Yi Xinglan simultaneously started moving. Yuan and Yehui's knees slightly flexed as she positioned herself in a horse stance and her right fist slowly punched forward. Countless airflows simultaneously gathered on the surface of her fist in an instant and whirled outward at full speed before whirling inward to form a terrifying vortex as it blasted straight for Tang Wulin's chest. Yi Xinglan's silhouette flashed and her body had already transformed into starlight. Her unparalleled sword's consciousness transformed into a sword soul and headed straight for Tang Wulin, with her becoming one with the sword. Yu Jingyu was equally impressive. The 12-winged angel light shadow appeared behind him. His saint sword instantaneously fused with the angel as he unleashed Angel's Descent and Light of Judgment. The attacks from 3 people were all launched straight for Tang Wulin. They did not even bother paying the slightest bit of attention to a Ruheng or Sima Jinkai. In the meantime, 2 rings of halo soundlessly appeared underneath Sima Jinkai and a Ruheng's feet. They appeared so suddenly that there was no way for them to dodge. The silhouettes of those 2 that were originally charging forward like soul tanks abruptly stopped, and they were even about to tumble forward. They were halted for just a moment. Streams of star chains coiled upward and bonded around them. Even though it had only lasted for a moment before both of them managed to struggle free from the chains, the 1-second-long absolute immobility had still actually managed to produce a stalemate effect. 1 second. 1 second on the battlefield was enough to tip the balance of a siege. It was this 1 second that allowed the Shrek 6 monsters to complete a perfect siege on Tang Wulin. Actually, the layer of the golden light screen had only managed to block Tang Wulin for 1 second, yet it was precisely that 1 second that neutralized Tang Wulin's 1 full-force spiritual assault. This was the display of one's true ability, a truly terrifying ability. The tense moment of 6 against 1 was formed at this very moment. When their bodies were stiffened for a second, Ruheng and Sima Jinkai had a change of countenance. They had never expected there to be a person capable of exercising such powerful control ability amongst the Shrek 7 monsters. On the other hand, they saw the bursting radiance flashing on Tang Wulin's body. The golden scales that covered his entire body seemed to have suddenly turned mirror-like as he rapidly glimmered. The first attack that landed on his body was precisely the Cloud Vortex Divine Punch. At the same time, when Tang Wulin's body was shooting out a golden radiance in a violent loud booming noise, his aura was also exponentially increasing. It was the domineering golden dragon body. During that very moment when he felt that his attack missed, or rather he should describe the situation as watching his spiritual assault land on a void, Tang Wulin had unleashed this soul skill. He didn't dare wait anymore. At this moment, he was sparring against his most powerful companions. A faint smile emerged on his face soon after. Tang Wulin was calm and confident as he confronted the siege. The power of Cloud Vortex Divine Punch was not only in its attacking ability but even more on its control over strength. Such a heavy punch that landed on his body did not blast Tang Wulin away. On the contrary, it felt as if the punch was glued to his body such that his entire body was halted in midair. The light of judgment was ferociously cast onto Tang Wulin's body at this moment. The speed of light had always traveled faster than Yi Xinglan's Star God sword. Tang Wulin waved his right hand. The golden dragon spear was shimmering with dazzling golden radiance as a layer of bright golden dragon air passed through his body and relied on the energy produced from domineering golden dragon body's counteraction to abruptly expand outward. Not only that, but the 5th golden soul ring on his body was also glowing brightly. He unleashed his golden dragon tremor burst. The effect produced from the combination of dragon air and golden dragon tremor burst was super powerful, and it scattered the light of judgment unleashed by Yu Jingyu in his martial soul avatar state. At the same time, the golden dragon spear was raised high in his hand as it projected thousands of light shadows in an instant. He had not only managed to block Yi Xinglan's Star God sword but had also managed to enshroud Yuan and Yehui, Yu Jingyu, and Yi Xinglan before him. Tang Wulin was already different as compared to before. Ding, a crisp sound was heard. Tang Wulin discovered in astonishment that the star god sword before his face seemed to have turned illusionary. In the next moment, he felt as if it was projected into his mind. Was her star god sword already capable of launching spiritual assault through the projection of the sword Saul's aura? Tang Wulin had been confronted by the same attack when he was fighting against Gale Saber Demon Sima Jinkai. Even though he was familiar with this, he could not help feeling astonished. There was no doubt that the current Yi Xinglan had already sufficiently mastered the profoundness of her sword soul. It was also at this moment that a light shadow from the illusion found his neck. The light shadow appeared so suddenly that Tang Wulin had not even realized it. Dragon air and tremor burst had just burst out and were in the process of recuperating. The attack was launched with perfect timing. It arrived just in time when the dragon air was at its weakest point. Dragon air soundlessly parted from the assault. It rippled away with airy appearance as if it was torn by the fluctuating space. When Tang Wulin sensed the danger, the illusionary light shadow had already arrived behind the back of his neck. It was Xie Xie. Tang Wulin figured out where the attack originated from in a split second. It turned out that after going through the series of attacks, Yi Xinglan was not the one to end it, but it was Xie Xie. They did not even bother to divide a portion of their power to deal with a Ruheng or Sima Jinkai and were completely devoted in sieging him. This was truly a show of their generosity to him. They were truly his best companions. Tang Wulin had no time to feel frustrated for Xie Xie's attack, which could not be resisted that easily. Tang Wulin at present had not managed to complete unleashing his 1,000 accusing fingers due to the sword Saul's influence. More importantly, the timing of Xie Xie's attack that was coming from behind was controlled to perfection. Yu Jingyu's light of judgment was scattered by his tremor, but the saint sword was already cutting from his side. Yuan Yehue's one strike of cloud vortex divine punch from his front was devoured by his domineering golden dragon body, but a second strike arrived once again. Moreover, it felt like this one was bigger than the previous one as the attacks grew stronger. Tang Wulin made an assumption in this split second that he would definitely not last over 3 rounds in his companion's siege before it was over for him. Since he could not confront them in a frontal collision, he would need to unite with the teammates behind him in order to defeat the combined effort of Shrek 6 monsters. Aruhang and Sima Jinkai had just struggled free from the control of star chains at present. They were once again prepared to charge forward. However, Xu Xiaoyon's control arrived again at this moment. It was the dazzling starlight. Countless starlight shot out profusely and separately landed on Aruhang, Sima Jinkai, and Tang Wulin's bodies such that their movements had frozen for a moment. Even Tang Wulin dared not declare himself better than Xu Xiaoyan when it came to the control of timings. Xu Xiaoyan's control attack was truly too precise. The first starlight fell upon Tang Wulin's body at the time when he had just turned over his left hand in an attempt to block Xie Xie's attack. Even though this very strike of hers could only stop Tang Wulin for a moment, just this one moment was already enough. They were truly exhilarating. Tang Wulin realized that Xu Xiaoyan's control ability was more now even powerful than before. She had not only managed to stop his body, but he felt as if his thinking had paused almost simultaneously. He had momentarily lost his ability to think. This was undoubtedly a catastrophe when he was fighting against so many powerhouses at the same time. Tang Wulin knew that he had been careless and had underestimated the growth of his companions. He should not have stormed over at the start. He put some distance between Sima Jinkai, Ruhan, and himself by doing so. In the end, he barged into his opponent's territory alone. His companions did not go easy on him either. Their aim was simple, and that was to take him out of the picture. After that, they would deal with Aruhang and Sima Jinkai. The 6 of them worked as one. Clearly, the bloodthirst bin buns had taken their effects. The intensities of their attacks were difficult to withstand even for him. He had just unleashed his domineering golden dragon body. Although he had managed to block the first round of attacks, Xie Xie's attack was too fatal for him. Even Long Yue, who had been watching the battle from the sides, did not think that Tang Wulin stood a chance. However, her face was filled with smiles. If Tang Wulin alone was powerful among them, then the Shrek 7 monsters would not be a formidable force. There was a limit to one's individual strength, no matter how powerful one was. The limits of an individual would be apparent when the person had to deal with many things at one go. If all of the Shrek 7 monsters were powerful, then they could truly be regarded as experts of the generation. Only then could they truly restore Shrek Academy and let the Academy stand at the pinnacle of the continent again. Long Yue was happy to see Tang Wulin in a pinch. Why would she not be? These little fellows had truly grown. However, just when everyone thought that Tang Wulin could not take it anymore, a loud heartbeat was suddenly heard. Badump! Everything around them seemed to have quietened down amidst the strong heartbeat sound. Xie Xie, who was attacking Tang Wulin and was also the closest to him, clearly paused in his movements. This heartbeat sound did not come from Tang Wulin, but from a Ruheng behind him. The first person hit by dazzling starlight was Tang Wulin, followed by a Ruheng and Sima Jinkai. However, it was exactly in this instant when they were hit that a Ruheng's heartbeat was heard. In a team battle, if one side did not have a control system battle soul master, it would be too disadvantageous. A Ruheng was not a control system himself, but thanks to his body sect innate secret technique he had certain control system abilities. He unleashed this controlling ability of his in that instant. The heavy heartbeat sounds had affected every single one of the Shrek 6 monsters. Actually, when they watched the Federal Star Do Battle Network Challenge, they had seen a Ruheng influencing his opponents with his heartbeat sounds. However, seeing it and facing it in actual combat were two different things. Moreover, a Ruheng had already improved from being a soul Doluor to a title Doluor. He was a true body Doluor. His innate secret technique was also improved as he had completed it. That was why this excited heartbeat sound had made the Shrek 6 monsters' heart skip a beat. The insufficient supply of blood from their hearts resulted in a pause in their martial soul's output and the dazzling starlight's effects had been forcibly negated. Tang Wulin smiled. After all, he was not fighting this battle alone. A silver light flashed in his right hand behind him and another spear appeared out of thin air. It was the impressive Atlas Divine Spear which the Atlas Dolor had once used to overwhelm the world. The brilliant silver light blocked the attack which came from behind him. A crisp sound rang as Xie Xie's attack was finally resolved. At the same time, Tang Wulin's soul ring suddenly shone. It was not his 5 golden soul rings, but he had instantly switched to his 7 soul rings instead. He did not activate his martial soul avatar and to everyone's surprise, had activated his 2nd soul ring. The Shrek 6 monsters were very familiar with Tang Wulin. They obviously knew what his 2nd soul skill was. Blue-silver impaling array. What good will his blue-silver impaling array do at this moment? Could he have thought that his blue-silver impaling array could control everyone? Everyone was currently ganging up on Tang Wulin. It was true that his blue-silver impaling array could envelop everyone, but it was still only his 2nd soul skill. What could it do even if it enveloped the entire battlefield? With the Shrek 6 monsters' strength, they had many ways to deal with this comparatively weaker controlling ability. However, a shocking scene appeared just when they thought that Tang Wulin's skill would not have any significant controlling effect. Blades of thick blue-silver grass charged out from the ground and the instant they charged forth, their original blue color turned into an eye-catching bluish-golden color. They also unleashed waves of dragon's roar. It was as if many small bluish-golden dragons were charging out of the ground. Every tip of the blue-silver grass resembled a dragon's head. The even more shocking scene was that they glowed with a faint golden radiance. The attack was unavoidable. This was mainly because it had already spread itself to encompass 100 meters in diameter. Everyone unleashed their abilities which they thought could block this. However, they were still controlled by this blue-silver impaling array. Their bodies stiffened. They felt as if their bloodlines were being suppressed by something. Everyone's attack seemed to have been interrupted at the same time and the pressure on Tang Wulin's body instantly vanished. A peculiar smile appeared on Tang Wulin's face. He swept his golden dragon spear and Atlas Divine Spear at the same time. They lashed onto Yu Jingyu and Yuan and Yehui who were near him and both of them were sent flying by the impact. He had shown mercy because they were his companions, he did not hit them with his full strength. Even so, they still flew a long way before crashing onto the ground. The Atlas Divine Spear in Tang Wulin's hand instantly disappeared. He grabbed at something behind him with lightning speed by his left hand. At the same time, he stomped on the ground with his right foot using Golden Dragon Shakes the Earth. 8 bluish golden dragons charged out as vibrating waves were sent out. This paralyzed Xu Xiaoyan again as she attempted to unleash her controlling ability. Even Yi Xinglan's Star God Sword was affected, and it was finally intercepted by Gale Saber Demon Sima Jinkai, who came from the back. In a battle between soul masters, a single soul skill was often all it took for the tides of the battle to be turned. This was also the reason why every soul master sought after powerful soul skills in their cultivation processes. Tang Wulin and the others were at a disadvantage. However, with a seemingly simple blue-silver impaling array, the tides of the battle had instantly changed. Yu Zhengyu and Yuan and Yehui were the main offensive force of the Shrek 6 monsters. When they were sent flying backward, there was nobody to stop Tang Wulin from advancing. He swiftly moved up to Yi Xinglan. His left hand grabbed onto something as he pulled. A figure was pulled out of thin air. However, in the instant the figure was pulled out, Xie surprisingly faded and disappeared. However, this could no longer change the situation of the battle. Tang Wulin smiled as he tapped on Xu Xiaoyan's shoulder with his golden dragon spear in his right hand. Xu Xiaoyan's controlling abilities were powerful, but she would be out of the picture once she was controlled and the enemy got close. Xu Lixi was behind Xu Xiaoyan. When he saw Tang Wulin right before his nose, he immediately raised both arms in a show of surrender. He looked harmless. After all, a food-type tool soul master was never cut out for combat in a battlefield. On the other side, Aruhang had charged out like a gale. He blocked Yu Jingyu and Yuan and Yehui, who had intended to return and aid their comrades. There was no longer any doubts about the outcome of this match. Tang Wulin heaved a long sigh. He turned around to watch the fight between Yi Xinglan and Sima Jinkai. The dragon-slaying saber and Star God Sword had collided hundreds of times in a short moment. Yi Xinglan kept retreating amidst the densely packed collision sounds. However, she still determinedly blocked Sima Jinch's attacks. "All right, stop." Elder Long's voice came at the right moment. Saber and sword collided. Yi Xinglan did a somersault and drifted backward far away. Currently, her expression was also grim. Although she had only crossed blades with the Gale Saber Demon Sima Jinkai for a short amount of time, she had been under a huge amount of pressure. Sima Jinkai was more powerful than before. Also, he seemed to be at a whole different level. Every strike of his dragon-slaying saber was accompanied by the deafening dragon roars. It shocked her spirit greatly. She almost could not unleash her own sword soul. Amidst their collisions, the dragon-slaying saber showed its might. Every strike made Yi Xinglan cringe from the wailing of the Star God Sword. It seemed to be in danger of breaking at any time. She had never faced a situation like this in her previous battles. Although Sima Jinkai was a title d'honneur, he seemed a tad powerful for a title d'honneur. How could he be so powerful? Yi Xinglan had worked very hard in her cultivation. However, she noticed that the gap between Sima Jinkai and herself had broadened instead of narrowed. It dealt a great blow to her confidence. They were separated and Xie revealed himself from the shadows. They looked shockingly at each other and had incredulous gazes. Currently, the smile on Long Yue's face was gone. In truth, nobody even realized the light dark Dolor was smiling. "What are you all doing? That was a mess of a fight. Is this the fruit of your cultivation?" She showed no restraint and directed her words at everyone. Tang Wulin and his team were in a better situation. They were, after all, the side that won. On the other hand, the Shrek 6 monsters were sulking. They had the upper hand at the beginning. However, Ruhang's loud heartbeats had disrupted the entire battlefield. Xie could not help but ask Tang Wulin, "Big brother, since when did your blue-silver impaling array become this powerful?" Tang Wulin smiled. "That's not my blue-silver impaling array at all. It's a soul skill I activated by combining my Golden Dragon King's bloodline power and blue-silver grass. I call it my blood-soul fusion skill. The power of my blue-silver grass martial soul can be applied to my Golden Dragon King's bloodline power. The reverse is possible too. The seemingly simple blue-silver impaling array should have been called the gold-silver impaling array instead. Tang Wulin unleashed the blue-silver impaling array after he had infused his Golden Dragon King bloodline aura into his blue-silver emperor. The combination was superior to a martial soul fusion skill. Under such circumstances, his comrades did not have the time to protect themselves and they fell under its control. You think that you shouldn't have lost? If this had been a battlefield, all of you would have died for sure, said Long Yue coldly. The Shrek 6 monsters were all sullen, especially Yi Xinglan. She drooped her head. As the Master Control Soul Master, she was fully accountable. She was the one who laid out their strategy. However, they lost badly in the end. Did you guys think that you'll win just because you outnumber them? When there's such an obvious gap between your cultivation bases, why didn't you use your battle armors from the start? Are your two-word battle armors just for show? Long Yue reprimanded them without reserve. In the previous battle, the Shrek 6 monsters did not use their battle armors. Before the match began, they were told that they were allowed to use their battle armors while Tang Wulin and his team were not. If Aruhang and Sima Jinkai used their three-word battle armors, the match would have been lopsided. However, the proud Shrek 6 monsters did not unleash their battle armors the first time. It led to their defeat. If they had their battle armors, it would not have been so easy for Tang Wulin to fend off their attacks. Again. Long Yue was curt. She turned around and left. Again? Tang Wulin looked at Aruhang and Sima Jinkai. Aruhang chuckled. Why not? I'm not satisfied yet. Little fellows, put on your battle armors quickly. Don't come crying later when you lose again. He then turned around and returned to where he stood initially. Yu Zhengyu said through gritted teeth, don't be so full of yourself. If we had put on our battle armors, you wouldn't stand a chance. Sima Jinchu's gaze had been on Yi Xinglan all this while. He said with a deep voice, if you're under the enhancement of your battle armor, I may just consider using my full strength. Yi Xinglan was slightly pale. Although she said nothing, it was clear that she was not in a good mood. The Shrek 6 monsters gathered together and had a brief discussion. Tang Wulin, Sima Jinkai and Aruhang returned to their initial positions. Although they had won in the end, their victory did not come easily. In truth, whether it was in terms of battle strategy or their coordination, they did not make any mistakes. On the other hand, the six had misjudged Tang Wulin's and Aruhang's abilities. That was why they lost the match. In any case, both sides had reaped benefits from the battle. Yi Xinglan's mass control ability left a deep impression on Aruhang and Sima Jinkai. The little girl who looked meek and soft had exerted control on them, and they could not do anything about it. It was unbelievable. Tang Wulin remained in the center while Aruhang and Sima Jinkai flanked him. On the other side, the Shrek 6 monsters had the same formation as well. Begin. Elder Long's voice was as crisp as ever. The second match between the two teams commenced. The exchange just now did not consume much of their energies. They were all experts who had condensed their soul cores. Their soul powers were replenished quickly, and it did not affect their rematch. Tang Wulin was not as rash as before. He unleashed both his martial soul and his golden dragon body simultaneously. He wielded his golden dragon spear with his right hand and moved forward with Aruhang and Sima Jinkai. They marched straight ahead. During their forward charge, their imposing strengths were increasing continually. On the other side, the Shrek 6 monsters dared not employ their earlier strategy. Instead, they unleashed their two-word battle armors at the same time. Their battle armors had names which were related to their respective lovers. In sequence, they were the Star Wisdom Yi Xinglan, the Guardian Star Shu Lishi, the Dragon Knight Xie Xie, the Heaven Double Yuan and Yehui, the Star Universe Shu Xiaoyan, and the Heaven Word Yu Jingyu. Their battle armors shone with dazzling radiance. After they donned them, their auras were intensified instantly. They seemed like completely different people. A 7-ring Soul Saint with a 2-word battle armor was equivalent to a 9-ring title Doluo's cultivation base. However, they could not fight like actual title Duluos because they could not use their soul skills. Nonetheless, the individual strength of each member of the Shrek 6 monsters was not inferior to that of a title Dolores. Tang Wulin and his teammates immediately felt the pressure building upon themselves. Anyway, the more pressure they felt, the more excited they got. Whether it was Tang Wulin, Aruheng or Sima Jinkai, they were only able to unleash their full potential while fighting a powerful opponent. Currently, they were facing 6 two-word battle armor masters. Consequently, their auras intensified. Lub-dub. 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 Aruheng's heart pumped strongly. His body enlarged concurrently. He instantly grew into a 7-meter-tall giant. His skin color turned golden scarlet. His domineering air felt the same as the Bear Lord. Sima Jinkai had a cold gleam in his eyes. His dragon-slaying saber flickered with a glow like the water surface in autumn. Behind him, various figures of giant dragons emanated evil auras flickering and overlapping each other. They were seemingly projected onto this plane. The sharpness of the dragon-slaying saber released a terrifying pressure. Each step forward was accompanied by the wails of giant dragons. Tang Wulin, who was in the center, unleashed his flickering dragon air. The golden dragon spear in his hand pulsed with a radiance at its tip. The spear soul resounded in his mind. He was the one whose domineering aura increased the most. With the unleashing of his dragon might, it put tremendous pressure on the Shrek 6 monsters' bloodlines. A smile reappeared on Long Yue's face. Watching these outstanding young people fight was something which gladdened her heart and pleased her eyes. How she wished that she was 100 years younger so she could join them. When she was their age, she did not even have a cultivation base at par with their present ranks. The more she watched Tang Wulin, the more satisfied she felt. Of course, she was pleased with her beloved disciple. Tang Wulin was beginning to take on the qualities of a leader with his outstanding moral character. Standing between experts such as Aruheng and Sima Jinkai did not dampen his brilliance in the least. The two sides closed in on each other slowly. The Shrek 6 monsters chose to hold their positions as they waited for their opponent's attack after a long march. Xie disappeared once again. Xu Xiaoyon's star staff flickered waiting to strike at any moment. Currently, her two-word battle armor star universe set her apart and made her look like the starry sky itself. Countless starlights flickered upon her. It made her star staff sparkle. She commanded the most attention on the entire battlefield. Undoubtedly, the battle's final outcome was directly related to their control system Battle Soul Master. With the improvement in her cultivation base, Xu Xiaoyon's star staff's controlling ability was truly domineering. Even Sima Jinkai and Aruheng were genuinely afraid of it. At this very moment, Tang Wulin suddenly moved. He took an abrupt step forward. It was a large step. As he stomped his foot onto the ground, an explosion could be heard. The Shrek 6 monsters opposite him reacted instantly. Xu Xiaoyan nearly unleashed a skill from her star staff. However, after Tang Wulin took that step, he revealed a smile. "Don't be afraid." Was that a scare? The Shrek 6 monsters wore peculiar expressions. In the next instant, Tang Wulin turned illusory. Only Aruheng and Sima Jinkai beside him saw his pair of dragon wings beating with minor movements. His third golden soul ring shone as well. The golden dragon flies. Since he had been in an unfavorable situation previously when he broke into their ranks alone, the Shrek 6 monsters thought that Tang Wulin would not repeat his actions. On the contrary, Tang Wulin leveraged on this misconception of theirs. He intimidated the spirits of the Shrek 6 monsters with a scare just now to launch a surprise attack. It was not merely a move to show his strength. It was also psychological warfare. When he charged out, the Shrek 6 monsters lagged for half a beat before they reacted. Tang Wulin's body instantly shone with his domineering golden dragon body's radiance. That was not all. The dragon air around him spewed forth like a gushing gyre. It was a combination strike of the dragon air and the golden dragon blast. He unleashed them in an instant. Xu Xiaoyan reacted quickly enough. The sixth soul ring on her body shone. The light screen which had blocked Tang Wulin before reappeared. The light screen was known as the Absolute Star Screen. Although it could only be maintained for an instant, it was sufficient for her to create a super powerful defensive wall. It was a complete defense strong enough to block any form of energy, spiritual power, or physical attack. In their previous match, Tang Wulin had lost his advantage. With the enhancement of her two-word battle armor, Xu Xiaoyon's absolute star screen could be prolonged for a while longer. However, an unexpected situation occurred. Tang Wulin was charging toward her with great determination. The instant he was about to slam into the absolute star screen, he stopped abruptly. Only his dragon air, which was spewing like a gushing gyre, charged into it. The golden dragon spear in his hand disappeared as well. In the next instant, his gold-silver impaling array appeared. A wide swathe of impaling arrays burst forth. Tang Wulin had used the delay in their reactions to exert control on Xu Xiaoyon. Although the absolute star screen had blocked the first wave of the gold-silver impaling array, there were subsequent waves which continued to spread out endlessly. Meanwhile, her absolute star screen could only last for 2 instants. Once her absolute star screen disappeared, the continual charge of his gold-silver impaling array would take effect. Even with their two-word battle armors, the Shrek 6 monsters would be affected. Their formation would, thus, be disrupted. After a thorough understanding of Xu Xiaoyon's ability, Tang Wulin took a direct approach instead. The Shrek 6 monsters also had ample combat experiences. The 6 of them did not move backward. Once they chose to retreat at this point, Ruhan and Sima Jinkai would take advantage of the situation. Consequently, they would be handicapped. In the next moment, Xu Xiaoyon's star staff shone. A circle of star wheel shackles appeared under Tang Wulin's feet. To prevent Tang Wulin's controlling ability from taking effect, the only way was to control him first. It was a contest between 2 controlling abilities. Behind Tang Wulin, a huge pinkish flower appeared silently. It was the damask tulip. Devour the World was unleashed. Surprisingly, he had unleashed Devour the World when he was in such close proximity with his opponents. His confidence was apparent. Devour the World was unleashed via the damask tulip. Even if he was being controlled, the execution of this soul skill would not be affected. The gold-silver impaling array was interrupted, while the absolute star screen faded as well. The 2 sides were very close to each other. Tang Wulin half expected to be bombarded with blows. However, at this very moment, his body reeled backward. On the ground, a blue-silver emperor vine went taut. Nobody noticed Tang Wulin had left behind a blue-silver emperor vine when he charged forward. The other end of the vine was in Aruhan's hands. When he unleashed Devour the World, he was forcibly pulled back by Aruhan. The others who had just unleashed their explosive forces felt as if they had punched a cotton pillow. They were in unimaginable pain. It was especially true for Yu Jingyu. He had unleashed his martial soul avatar. His Saint Sword's brilliant radiance slashed onto an empty spot. Tang Wulin had displayed superb control in this case. He tricked Xu Xiaoyon into unleashing her absolute star screen. Tang Wulin believed that not even Xu Xiaoyon could unleash such a nature-defying control system ability consecutively. She needed some time to cool down before she could unleash it again. Currently, the 6 monsters were wearing their battle armors. However, they had just eaten the bloodthirst bin buns which would weaken their bodies to a certain extent. That was why he was in no hurry. Furthermore, he had endured a round of star wheel shackles which did not prevent him from unleashing Devour the World. The energy particles in the air surged wildly toward him, causing his aura to intensify. When the 3 of them regrouped, they were only 50 meters away from the Shrek 6 monsters. Aruhan ran forward in great strides to ward them off. Sima Jinqi's dragon-slaying saber rose into the skies. With a hack that could kill an evil dragon, he made his move against Yi Xinglan with a domineering momentum. They confronted the tough with determination. 3 against 6. To put it more precisely, it was 3 against 5. Xie had vanished again. Were they about to clash head-on? Among the Shrek 6 monsters, Yuan Yehua's body suddenly enlarged. She unleashed all her enhancing soul skills. For a time, her domineering aura increased tremendously. The Cloud Vortex Divine Punch was a skill she created by incorporating her air cannon. Currently, under the enhancement of her Titan Giant Ape Martial Soul, the force of her Cloud Vortex Divine Punch naturally increased as well. Boom! The first ones to clash were Yue and Aruhang. Amidst the intense collision sounds, Yue did not flinch. She was evenly matched with Aruhang. Now that she was under the enhancement of her battle armor, the power of Yue's combat strength was formidable. Her Cloud Vortex Divine Punch have improved. She's able to block senior disciple brother's strength. Tang Wulin was shocked as well. Yue and Yi Xinglan were both members of their team with strengths only second to his. Both of them had incredibly powerful individual combat strength. Also, the rate at which they were improving were at par with his. Even Tang Wulin was shocked as to how Yuen's punch could be so powerful. I thought she's just eaten a bloodthirst bin bun. Shouldn't her body be weakened to a certain extent? Aruhang broke out in laughter. He shouted loudly, "Good. Take another punch then." As he said this, he raised both fists and hurled them straight at Yue. This time, he held nothing back. His veins popped up and his body shone with a golden scarlet radiance. He seemed to be spewing forth a light mist. Yue took a deep breath and her entire person enlarged again. The airflow around her grew stronger and moved like a swirling typhoon. It was instantly condensed onto her fists. The duo collided again. Aruhang felt as if he had hit a deep-sea whirlpool. Amidst the high-speed swirl, his strength was stripped off layer by layer. At the core of the whirlpool, the turbulent currents were indescribable. They tore at him wildly. What powerful skills! On the other hand, Yue felt a different sensation. She felt Aruhang's fists were as heavy as mountains. No matter how much her Cloud Vortex Divine Punch tried to weaken them, she barely reduced their power. Boom! In the second clash, Yue's cultivation base was weakened. Even with her battle armor's enhancement, she was still no match for the body sect's only bodybuilder who had successfully cultivated the innate secret technique. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.